The Bengals' preparation for Super Bowl 56 continues. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Radio Row. I'm James Rapine of allbengals.com and Cincinnati Bengals Talk here in Los Angeles, where, yes, your Cincinnati Bengals will play the Los Angeles Rams, as you can see, in Super Bowl 56. But you know that already, and one of the big topics in this game is what? The Bengals' offensive line that has been beaten up and made fun of and talked about, well, throughout the playoffs, throughout the season, and for good reason. They gave up 51 sacks. Joe Burrow sacked 51 times in 16 regular season games, another 12 times in 3 playoff games, including 9 times against the Titans. Let's be honest, it's the weak point of the team. And when you look on the other side, and there's that guy named Von Miller right there. You can see him over my right shoulder. There's a guy named Aaron Donald in the middle of the Rams' defensive line, and then the list goes on and on and on about all these different players on the Rams' defensive line that can make game-changing plays, sack Joe Burrow, make Joe Burrow uncomfortable, wreck the game. It's scary. And so naturally, when that's a topic, and it's a topic you've heard me ask a bunch of our guests this week about it, you're going to continue to hear me ask our guests about it because it could be the deciding factor in Super Bowl 56. Can the Bengals block Aaron Donald and Von Miller and keep Joe Burrow upright, give Joe Burrow enough time to operate? And that was a question, one of the many questions that Frank Pollack, the Bengals offensive line coach, asked. And he went the route of praising his offensive line ahead of the big game, says they're a resilient group. Here's Frank Pollack on the Bengals offensive line.
The one word that comes to mind for me is resilient. They've been resilient throughout the year. When they needed to be their best, they've rose to the occasion to be their best. We had a rough game in Tennessee, but that last drive, we need to hit on all cylinders. We hit on all cylinders. Guys have been working hard all year and just resilient, really resilient comes to mind. It's been a good week of prep. Last week in Cincinnati, I'm really happy where we're at, and then we got another week out here to kind of put the final touches on our preparation. So I like where our guys are at.
It's no surprise that he's going to say that, and you could say they are resilient, right? You have a 6th-round, second-year player in Hakeem Adeniji starting at right guard. You have a guy in Isaiah Prince who opted out last year starting at right tackle. They don't have Riley Reiff. Trey Hopkins has played in all but one game this year. I would say one game that mattered this year after coming off of an ACL injury last January. I mean, these guys are resilient. Quentin Spain was a guy that went from undrafted to doubted to now one of the Bengals' better offensive linemen. And Jonah Williams, there were certainly questions about him coming into the year. So I think resilient is fair, but is it enough? And one thing that I could see happening, and it only goes so far, but the them against the world mentality is certainly something. And Frank Pollack said that they don't care about it, but I think it's a thing because you know Isaiah Prince, you know Hakeem Adeniji, you know these guys are aware of what's going on with us, with what the media is saying, with what fans are saying, with the biggest concerns and the talking heads and everybody saying about Super Bowl 56. So here's Frank Pollack on the narrative surrounding the offensive line and how they match up against Aaron Donald and company.
I don't pay attention to all the outside noise, if you will. I mean, the narrative is the narrative. I could care less. I mean, this is the ultimate team game. You need all aspects pulling in the same direction to have success. We're one of those facets. We're going to keep grinding and let the chips fall where they may. I mean, I don't get caught up in all that stuff. I mean, that's a nice story for you guys and the fans to worry about, not for us.
Can it be the galvanizing thing that gets them to play their best? If the Bengals offensive line plays their best and can slow down the Rams defensive line, I think the Bengals will win Super Bowl 56. I'm going to say it again. If the Bengals offensive line can find a way to slow down Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and the Rams defensive line, I think they will be world champions. But that's a huge if. That's a ginormous if. That's saying, to slow down a future Hall of Fame player like Aaron Donald, arguably the best defensive player on the planet, one of the best defensive players ever, to slow him down in a game that he's already played in and came up short and admittedly regrets in kicks himself in the rear for not playing better against the Patriots 3 years ago. So it's going to be much easier said than done. But you never know. In the the us against the world mentality, that sometimes works. And certainly it has worked for the Bengals this year. How can they slow down that rush? I'm going to get to that in just a second, but I do want to tell you, if you want to wager on the big game, you got to get to mybookie.ag. Don't delay. Get to mybookie.ag right now because, well, they have all the props you're looking for, all of the odds you're looking for, and you're going to get a 100% deposit match right now with promo code Bengals Talk. What's that promo code? Oh, it's Bengals Talk. BENGALSTALK. So if you want to wager on the big game, you want to take the Bengals plus 4.5. Ridiculous, by the way. I think that line's way too high. You could do it right now. MyBookie.ag, promo code Bengals Talk. And as far as slowing that defensive line down, a lot of screens, a lot of slants, a lot of quick game. I think that's going to be, part of it, and they're going to have to do it. And the other part is Joe Burrow's going to have to be a magician. It's just the reality of life in Super Bowl 56 and the reality of life for this Bengals team this year, this season. 12 sacks, 9 of them came against the Titans in this postseason. 1 sack in the AFC title game against the Chiefs. Guess what? I don't think the offensive line was that good against the Chiefs. I think Joe Burrow was that damn good, and he was that dude, and he ran for 4 first downs, and he did everything that we saw. So that is the path. Burrow the magician. Offensive line plays better than we've seen. Maybe you double-team Aaron Donald. Maybe you double-team him, and then you chip him with a running back. You try to do things to slow him down, and if you do that, you're going to have a shot. And Frank Pollack, you better believe it. He's going to get those guys hyped up, and hopefully they can buy in for 60 minutes. It's 4 quarters. You're 4 quarters away from a championship. You have to find a way to get there. It doesn't matter how you get there. You have to get there. And that is the fun part for the Bengals this week. Speaking of this week, we're going to have a ton more from Radio Row right here in Los Angeles. So buckle up, strap up, and get ready. Hit that subscribe button. And until next time, for our editor, Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapine, signing off for now from Radio Row in Los Angeles, home of Super Bowl 56.